Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CRISP Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Data lifecycle management is the discipline of managing data from its creation to its final disposal, ensuring that each step in the journey is governed according to its value, purpose, and risk. The purpose of data lifecycle management is to increase the value of data while decreasing the associated risks, and ensuring compliance with applicable laws and standards. This includes not only structured data in formal databases, but also unstructured data like documents, emails, and media files spread across various systems and platforms. Lifecycle management covers where the data comes from, where it resides, how it is used, and how it is eventually discarded. For C-risk professionals, it is important to know that each lifecycle stage introduces different risk exposures and opportunities for implementing the right controls, and these must be aligned with governance goals. The full data lifecycle contains 6 major phases, and each must be actively managed to maintain security and compliance. The first phase is creation, where data is either generated internally or acquired from external sources, and from this point on it begins to accumulate value and risk. The second phase is storage, in which the data is placed in databases, file servers, or cloud environments, and must be protected against loss or unauthorized access. The third phase is use, where data is read, updated, or processed by individuals or applications as part of business operations. The fourth phase is sharing, in which data may be transmitted to other systems, business units, or third parties, potentially across borders or network boundaries. The fifth phase is archival, where data no longer actively used is moved into long-term storage, often for regulatory or historical purposes. The final phase is destruction, where data is securely disposed of according to retention policies or legal requirements. Every phase must be supported by governance policies, control mechanisms, and detailed logging to ensure traceability and accountability. For more cybersecurity-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Each phase in the life cycle presents its own set of risks, and understanding these risks is essential for building the right set of controls. In the creation phase, risks arise if data sources are not verified or if input data is unvalidated, which can lead to flawed datasets. Proper classification at this stage is also necessary to determine what protections are needed. In the storage phase, risks include unauthorized access, data corruption, or backup failure, all of which can be mitigated by using encryption, strict access controls, and regular integrity checks. In the use phase, role-based access should limit who can view or alter data, and data masking or logging should be used to control and monitor access. During sharing, the risks increase due to data leaving controlled environments, so secure transmission protocols, data loss prevention tools, and strong third-party agreements are essential. Archival introduces risks related to non-compliance with retention laws or storing data longer than needed, which increases breach exposure. In the destruction phase, failing to securely erase or physically destroy data can leave recoverable information behind, creating regulatory and reputational risk. For the exam, remember that each lifecycle stage must be paired with matching protections, and control gaps are a common theme in exam questions. Classification is the starting point for securing data and building an effective lifecycle management strategy. Classifying data means assigning it a category based on how sensitive it is, how critical it is to operations, and what legal or regulatory standards apply to it. Common classifications include public, internal, confidential, and restricted, and each one carries a different set of protection requirements. This classification then drives how the data is handled during each phase, including who can access it, how it can be shared, how long it must be retained, and how it must be destroyed. For example, restricted data might require encryption and strict access logs, while internal data may have more flexible controls. On the exam, classification often determines what control or policy is appropriate in a given scenario. If a scenario presents different types of data without classification, it may be signaling a control gap. C-risk professionals must be able to recognize when the classification process is incomplete or improperly applied. especially in environments with large volumes of unstructured data. Ownership and stewardship are two roles that support the governance of data and clarify accountability across the lifecycle. Data owners are responsible for the data's classification, for approving who can access it, for determining how long it should be retained, and for ensuring that the data's quality supports business needs. In contrast, data stewards are responsible for the day-to-day management of data, including maintaining accuracy, coordinating with other systems, and enforcing control policies. These roles must be clearly defined so that no critical responsibilities are missed or duplicated. Without these definitions, decisions about data handling can become inconsistent or delayed. On the exam, a scenario that includes an unowned or orphaned data repository is often pointing to a governance issue. Lack of ownership is not just a procedural failure, it can lead directly to risk exposure and compliance violations. Recognizing the difference between strategic responsibility and operational enforcement is a key part of lifecycle-aware risk management. Throughout the data lifecycle, a wide range of legal and regulatory requirements apply, and understanding these requirements is vital for managing risk. Privacy regulations, such as the General Data Protection Regulation and the California Consumer Privacy Act, require organizations to respect data subject rights and implement safeguards for personal information. Industry-specific regulations like HIPAA for health data or PCI DSS for payment card data impose additional controls that must be maintained through storage, access, sharing, and retention. Legal holds may prevent data from being destroyed during litigation, and e-discovery requirements can force organizations to produce relevant records in legal proceedings. In multinational environments, cross-border data transfers must be evaluated for compliance with local data protection laws. Records retention laws often specify how long financial or operational records must be kept, and violating these requirements can result in penalties. On the exam, the correct answer often aligns with both the data's lifecycle stage and the applicable legal requirement. Choosing a control that does not match the phase or the regulation is a common pitfall. Every phase of the data lifecycle must be supported by controls and monitoring tools that protect the data and enforce policies. Encryption protects the data both in transit and at rest. Logs provide a detailed view of how the data has been accessed, changed, or moved. Masking prevents sensitive data from being exposed to users who do not need full visibility. Versioning allows organizations to track how records have changed over time, and access reviews help ensure that only authorized users can reach the data. Monitoring tools can detect unusual activity patterns, unexpected data transfers, or policy violations. Where possible, classification and policy enforcement should be automated to reduce the chance of human error and increase the consistency of control implementation. As technology environments change, controls must be updated to reflect new threats, architectures, or business models. For example, moving data to a cloud platform may require a different set of logging and encryption protocols than on-premises storage. The exam may present questions where the existing controls are no longer sufficient, and the correct response involves adapting them to current use. Retention and archival decisions must strike a careful balance between keeping too little and keeping too much. If too little is retained, organizations may fail to comply with laws, miss out on critical historical data, or be unprepared for audits or investigations. On the other hand, retaining too much data for too long can increase the cost of storage, make systems harder to manage, and create unnecessary exposure in case of a breach. Privacy regulations often require that data be deleted once its original purpose is fulfilled, and holding on to data past this point may violate those rules. Retention policies must be documented and justified by both business needs and legal standards. Archival systems must ensure that the data remains readable, accessible, and intact over long periods of time. For example, a backup that cannot be restored or a file format that is no longer supported does not meet compliance goals. Exam scenarios may highlight retention policies that are too vague, too rigid, or not aligned with current laws. The best answers demonstrate awareness of both compliance and operational efficiency. Secure deletion of data is the final control in the lifecycle and must be performed in a way that ensures the data cannot be recovered. This may include the use of secure wiping software that overwrites storage blocks, cryptographic erasure that removes encryption keys, or physical destruction of the storage medium itself, such as shredding or incineration. Whatever the method, there must be clear documentation that the deletion occurred and that it was performed according to policy. This requirement applies across all media types, including hard drives, cloud storage, removable drives, and even printouts. A common exam misconception is that simply deleting a file or removing it from view is sufficient. This is not true. For the exam, deletion must mean permanent and auditable destruction. If the scenario includes language like the data was deleted but later recovered, it may be signaling that destruction was incomplete or improperly documented. Knowing the difference between temporary deletion and secure destruction is critical for managing final phase risks. When answering C-risk exam questions related to data lifecycle management, it is important to recognize how the data phase and classification guide the control choice. A question might ask, what control is most appropriate for a specific data use case? And the right answer will depend on whether the data is being stored, shared, or archived, and how sensitive it is. A data breach scenario may test your ability to identify whether the failure was in access control, retention policy, or destruction practice. Other questions may ask what policy should apply to archived data, and the right answer could be based on retention law or classification level. Some scenarios involve changing how data is used, shared, or stored, and will ask how to reassess risk in response. Strong answers in these cases show that you understand the relationships between data lifecycle phase, data value, legal obligations, and operational control. They also show that you can apply a policy-oriented, control-aware mindset to prevent failure across all stages of the data journey. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber C-Risk Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.